I overheard my wife's secret affair in the office bathroom while I sat silently, heart racing. The truth hit harder than betrayal itself, changing everything. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we dive into a story where the main character finds themselves facing an unexpected betrayal. Have you ever been in a situation where trust was shattered? Or perhaps you can relate to the struggle of finding out a painful truth? Watch until the end to see how the character navigates through this emotional journey and what they learn along the way. If you enjoy the story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so I can continue sharing more engaging tales with you. Your support means the world to me. Part 1. A tense discovery. It was just another mundane day at the office. Or so I thought. My name is Vincent Marshall, and I'm not your average guy. I've spent years working as a senior investigator for a high-end private firm. My career is all about precision, attention to detail, and uncovering the hidden truths that most people prefer to keep buried. I'm the guy you call when you want to uncover the truth behind a multi-million-dollar scam, or when something doesn't seem right on the surface. I've earned a reputation for being a human lie detector, but nothing in my career had prepared me for what I would overhear in that bathroom stall. I'd been dealing with a particularly tough case that day, but when the stomach cramps hit around 3 p.m., I knew I needed to take a quick break. Little did I know, that bathroom break would change my life forever. As I sat there, doubled over with food poisoning from a bad lunch, two familiar voices drifted in from the stall next to mine. It was Caleb Pierce and Jason Grant, two underwriters from the finance department. I didn't think much of it at first. Guys always talk shop in the bathroom, right? But then, Caleb's voice cut through the air like a knife. You won't believe what I did last night, man. I got with Lexi, Thomas's wife. She's a wild one. I froze. Lexi, Thomas's wife. Thomas, my colleague, my close friend. This couldn't be happening. My heart started racing as I listened intently, not believing what I was hearing. Was this some sort of sick joke? Could they really be talking about my best friend's wife like this? Caleb continued, casually recounting every detail. It was easy, you know? I slipped her a drink, got her tipsy, and she practically begged me to take her to my place. She couldn't get enough of me. Thomas wouldn't have a clue. She's been acting different lately, like she's been looking for an excuse, and I gave it to her. The floor beneath me felt like it was crumbling. I couldn't think straight, but I had to get out of there. I slowly stood up, my mind racing with questions. Why would Caleb be bragging about this? Was it really true? I never thought I would be in this situation. Sitting in a bathroom stall, hearing the betrayal of someone I trusted deeply. My stomach churned again, but it wasn't just the food poisoning. It was the reality setting in. Part 2. The aftermath. That night, everything felt off. I tossed and turned in bed, trying to shake it off, but no matter how many times I flipped the pillow to the cooler side, the gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach wouldn't let up. Maybe they were lying. Maybe it was all just bravado between those two, an attempt to impress each other with exaggerated tales of their conquests. But even as I thought that, a voice inside me kept telling me it wasn't that simple. The words Caleb had casually thrown around echoed in my mind, drowning out the silence of our bedroom. How could I not know? How could Thomas, my best friend, be so clueless? Were we both just blind, too wrapped up in our own lives to notice the cracks? I reached over, brushing my fingers against Lexi's arm as she lay asleep beside me. She didn't stir. Her breathing was steady, calm, peaceful. But everything felt wrong now. The warmth of her skin, the soft rhythm of her breaths. All of it seemed like it belonged to someone else. Someone who wasn't the woman I thought I knew. I tried to sleep, really I did. But the images, the words, kept replaying in my head. My mind wouldn't stop running. Couldn't shut it off. What if Caleb wasn't lying? What if everything he said was true? As the minutes stretched into hours, I began to feel the weight of the situation settling on me. The clock on the bedside table ticked, each second a reminder of how much time I had spent blind to the truth. Was this the end? Was I really standing on the edge of something I couldn't come back from? Morning came, and with it, the start of an unbearably long day. I could feel it as soon as I woke up. this strange distance between us. Lexi was still asleep beside me, but I couldn't bring myself to look at her the same way. Her soft smile, the gentle way she always greeted me in the mornings, was now just ordinary. Too ordinary. I tried to ignore it, to act like everything was fine, but I couldn't. I couldn't even look at her eyes without wondering if she was hiding something. If there was some part of her that I had never seen before, a side of her that had been kept hidden. I tried to brush it off. I really did. But the more I observed, the more I began to second-guess every small detail. The way she moved, the tone of her voice, the way she seemed to fidget when I asked her questions. When she made us breakfast, her usual cheerful hum as she flipped pancakes seemed out of place, like she was trying too hard to appear normal. But was that just me overthinking it? Was I really beginning to go crazy, questioning every little thing she did? We sat down at the kitchen table, and Lexi handed me my coffee, just like she always did. Her hand lingered on mine for a moment, and I felt the familiar warmth that had always been there. But now it felt distant. I couldn't focus on anything. "So, what's on the agenda today?" she asked, her voice light, trying to make small talk, as we did every morning. I hesitated before answering, too many thoughts racing through my mind. Work stuff, the usual. Her eyes flickered over to me, and I could swear I saw a brief flash of guilt before she quickly masked it with a smile. Was it there? Or was I imagining things? I couldn't tell anymore, but the doubt lingered. I tried to shake it off, but it clung to me like a shadow, growing stronger with each passing minute. The rest of the morning was a blur of mundane tasks. Lexi went about her day as if nothing had changed. She was her usual self, laughing at the kids' jokes, helping them get ready for school, packing their lunches, nothing out of the ordinary. But in the back of my mind, I kept wondering, is this normal? We talked about the usual things, work, the kids, dinner plans for the week, but I couldn't focus on any of it. I felt detached, like I was watching someone else's life unfold before me. Nothing seemed to make sense anymore. Lexi was acting so normal, and yet I was suffocating in a cloud of suspicion. As she kissed me goodbye and left for work, I felt like I was suffocating. Her kiss, which should have been a moment of comfort, felt cold. "See you tonight, babe," she said, her smile warm as always. I nodded, watching her go. But as the front door closed behind her, the weight of the situation hit me again. The house was too quiet, too empty. I stood there for a moment, just staring at the door, before I snapped myself out of it. I couldn't afford to waste time wallowing in doubt. I had to know for sure. I started my investigation subtly at first. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but how could I not? Every little thing Lexi did now seemed suspicious. So I followed her schedule closely. She'd mentioned a few things to me, work events, a casual meetup with a friend, a couple of appointments here and there, but none of it seemed out of the ordinary. She was just as busy as always, just as loving as always. But something inside me kept whispering that I needed to know the truth. I found myself paying more attention to her phone than I ever had before. I'd glance at it when it pinged with a message, or when her screen lit up, but she always seemed to be so careful about hiding it. Was she doing it to protect her privacy? Or was there something more? I wasn't sure, but I couldn't ignore the feeling in my gut telling me to dig deeper. I decided to take a more proactive approach, checking in with her more often during the day. Casual texts, small talk over the phone. Nothing out of the ordinary, but every time I asked her where she was or what she was doing, she seemed to be just a little too eager to reassure me. "I'm fine, babe. Everything's fine. Just busy with work stuff, you know how it is." It was like she was trying too hard to prove her innocence. The more I tried to gather information, the more paranoid I became. It wasn't just about the big things anymore. It was the little things, the way she moved, the way she hesitated when answering certain questions, the way she acted like everything was fine when I knew it wasn't. My mind was spiraling. The more I tried to reassure myself that everything was okay, the more I doubted it. The worst part was no one could tell. No one knew the weight I was carrying. On the surface, I was the same Alex, the loving husband, the caring father. But inside, I was a mess that no one could see. By the end of the week, I felt like I had lost myself. The investigation had consumed me. I wasn't just questioning Lexi anymore. I was questioning everything. The life I thought I knew, the love I thought we shared, was all slipping through my fingers. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't rest. Because deep down, I knew that if I didn't find the truth, I would lose everything. I would lose myself. Part 3, The Quiet Investigation. The days stretched on, each one feeling heavier than the last. I couldn't shake the gnawing sense of doubt gnawing at my insides. It was as if something was hiding just beneath the surface. A truth I couldn't see yet, but that I knew was there looming, just out of reach. My need for answers had become an obsession. I couldn't just wait for things to work themselves out anymore. Every hour, every minute I spent in this fog of suspicion made my skin crawl. The fear of betrayal began to gnaw at my mind, consuming my every thought. I had to know, and not just for my peace of mind, but for the sake of everything I thought I had. My marriage, my life, it was all built on trust. But now, trust felt like a fragile thread, fraying with every passing second. I couldn't just sit back and let things play out. No, I needed answers. I began, as I always do, small, subtle. At first, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I had to be careful, too much too soon, and I might tip my hand. So I started tracking her phone, monitoring her social media activity, and even running background checks on the people she interacted with most. Simple stuff at first. Nothing drastic. Just the kind of investigative work that, in another life, would have seemed like a routine check on a case. But this wasn't another case. This was my life. First, everything seemed normal. Nothing out of the ordinary, no red flags. Lexi's messages were routine, work, kids, errands, the occasional friendly chat with her friends. Her social media posts were all the same. Pictures of our family, posts about mundane things like dinner or weekend plans. The usual. Everything pointed to normalcy, and yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My gut told me there was more going on. Something hidden just beyond the surface, like a secret that wouldn't stay buried. Then there was her work schedule. Over the past few weeks, Lexi had started staying late more often. She'd say, "It's a busy time at the office," like it was no big deal. First, I believed her. We all have busy stretches, right? But the more she said it, the less it felt believable. The tone in her voice, the way she avoided looking me in the eye when she said it, it was subtle, but it didn't sit right with me. Something didn't feel right. It wasn't just the long hours at work. It was the way she seemed so calm, so distant when she talked about it. Almost as if she was trying too hard to convince me. I kept digging, watching, waiting for something, anything, that would give me a clue. I kept a closer eye on her routine. I knew it by heart. Her work hours, when she went to the gym, the errands she ran, even the time she spent with her friends. I could track it all in my mind, each moment, each step. I knew when she'd be home, when she'd be out with the kids, when she'd have free time. One day, Lexi mentioned she had an appointment at a high-end salon for a hair treatment. She said she'd be gone for a couple of hours, and I didn't think much of it at first. It sounded perfectly normal. She was overdue for a trim anyway. But something in my gut told me to follow her. Maybe it was the way she said it, or the fact that she'd been keeping to herself a bit more lately. But whatever it was, I couldn't ignore the feeling. So I followed her. I parked a few blocks away from the salon, just out of sight, watching as she walked into the building. The salon was one of those upscale places that seemed a bit too posh for my taste. But Lexi had always liked that kind of thing. She was there for a couple of hours, and I figured that was normal, but something felt off. She wasn't in a rush, no sense of urgency. I tried to tell myself it was just a routine appointment. But when I checked the time and realized that she'd been gone longer than expected, I started to feel that familiar sense of anxiety creeping up again. I waited. It wasn't like I had any reason to think she was doing anything wrong. It was just a gut feeling, something primal and unexplainable, telling me to stay, to keep watching, to trust the instinct that had served me well on the job for years. I wasn't about to let her slip through my fingers again, not without knowing the truth. At first, I thought maybe she'd just run into someone inside the salon, but as the minutes ticked by, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. My heart started to race. I checked the time again, and again. By the time I saw Lexi come out of the building, I was on the edge of my seat. She didn't look rushed, didn't seem like she was in any particular hurry. She just walked to her car, climbed inside, and drove off, without a glance in my direction. I followed her. Not in a way that would be obvious, no tailing her from a block away, no aggressive driving. But I stayed close, keeping a comfortable distance. My mind raced as I drove. Where was she going? She wasn't heading home, and she wasn't on her way to work. No. The car swerved a little as I kept my distance, my mind consumed by thoughts of what might be happening. She drove for about 10 minutes before pulling into a nondescript hotel parking lot, the kind of place I never would have expected her to visit. She parked in a spot near the back, out of sight from most of the cameras. It seemed strange. My heart dropped. The knot in my stomach tightened, and I tried to convince myself that it was nothing. Maybe she was meeting someone for a coffee, maybe a quick errand. But then the door to her car opened, and my breath caught. There was no Caleb, no sign of anyone I'd heard about in the bathroom that night. Instead, Lexi stepped out of the car and walked toward the hotel's front entrance. She looked perfectly calm, like she was just going for a simple meeting, just another day. But it wasn't just a regular meeting, because as I watched her disappear into the hotel lobby, something I couldn't ignore struck me. The woman who met her inside the hotel wasn't Caleb. It was Sarah, my boss's wife. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just a case of Lexi cheating. This wasn't Caleb. This wasn't even a typical affair. Lexi had been used as a cover for Sarah's affair with my boss. Caleb had been playing us all along, pretending to be part of the drama when the real story was far darker than I ever could have imagined. Sarah had been using Lexi's name to conceal her own secret life. I sat there in my car for what felt like an eternity, my mind racing, trying to process what I had just witnessed. Anger, disbelief, shock. I had been chasing shadows, convinced that the person who had betrayed me was my wife. But no, the betrayal wasn't from Lexi. It was from Sarah. And Caleb had been playing us both for fools. I felt foolish, but more than that, I felt furious. This wasn't just about trust in my marriage anymore. This was about betrayal on a level I hadn't anticipated. Hey, are you finding the story interesting so far? If you are, make sure to subscribe to the channel so we can continue the adventure together. The best part is just ahead. Part 4. The unexpected twist. The night before, I had meticulously set up everything. Cameras, trackers, a bug in her purse. I didn't even trust the hotel security cameras, so I rigged my own. I wasn't just a guy who suspected his wife. No, I was an investigator, a man trained to dig deep into the truth. The truth was all I needed now, no matter how ugly it was. It had been hours of waiting, but I couldn't afford to waste any time. I needed confirmation. I couldn't stand the thought of sitting back, letting the possibility of betrayal linger in my mind. Every moment that passed felt like an eternity, each one adding weight to the burden of doubt I was carrying. The parking lot was barely visible from my location, but I had positioned myself just right. It wasn't hard to see her car pull in. Lexi's car, sleek and silver, gliding silently over the pavement. My pulse quickened the moment I saw her. She looked completely at ease, unaware of the thousands of eyes I had on her, both real and virtual. She parked and stepped out of the car, moving with the same grace I had known her for. I knew her too well, but what came next made my breath catch in my throat. There was no sign of Caleb, no sign of the man I had overheard, bragging about their supposed rendezvous. No tall, confident man striding toward the hotel entrance. I watched, confused. My heart sank, but my brain raced to find an explanation. Maybe Caleb was already inside, or maybe Lexi was meeting someone else. Couldn't be sure yet. She walked into the hotel. My mind screamed at me to stay calm, to breathe, but there was something unsettling in the way she moved. Too composed, too certain. I'd never seen her like that when she was with me. I had to wait. I had to wait for the footage to load. It felt like hours passed, but in reality, it was only a few minutes. Still, the seconds seemed to stretch on forever as I waited for the footage to download to my device. Each tick of the clock added more dread to the weight on my chest. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the screen. My hands trembled slightly as I tapped the play button. And then I saw her, Lexi, walking through the lobby with a calm confidence that didn't sit right with me. But it wasn't Caleb who met her. It wasn't anyone I'd expected. My breath caught in my throat as I zoomed in on the woman who stood next to Lexi. It was Sarah. Sarah, my boss's wife. For a moment, I thought I had misread it. I zoomed in further, adjusting the camera's angles, my heart pounding in my chest. It wasn't a mistake. The footage was crystal clear, too clear. I had captured the moment when Lexi, my wife, walked into a hotel room with Sarah, the woman I'd always thought of as just another figure in the office. The realization hit me like a freight train, so fast, so violently, that I could barely process it. My mind couldn't keep up with what my eyes had just witnessed. I had spent days, no weeks, thinking it was Caleb, the man I overheard in the bathroom, boasting about his affair with Lexi. I had been so sure, so certain that the betrayal I feared was going to come from him. And now here I was, standing on the precipice of an even darker truth. It wasn't Caleb. It was Sarah. My mind raced with confusion, anger, and disbelief. How could I have been so blind? For weeks, I had been convinced that Caleb was the man who would bring my world crashing down. I had stalked his every move, interrogated every detail of his relationship with Lexi, but none of it mattered. It wasn't him. It was Sarah. And what made it worse was that Sarah had been using Lexi as a cover, hiding her affair with my boss under the guise of a harmless friendship. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My mind was reeling. Was Sarah manipulating Lexi all along, using her to protect her own secrets? I had been the fool. All the evidence, all the clues I had gathered over the past few days, had pointed me to the wrong person. The weight of my failure crushed me. I felt like a complete idiot. I ran a hand over my face, the cold sweat on my skin making everything feel even more surreal. My thoughts kept racing, spinning in circles. How could Sarah, how could she do this to me, to Lexi, to Thomas, my boss, who had trusted her? But even though the shock was overwhelming, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let this slide. I had to know everything. I had to confront the truth. The woman I had worked alongside for so long, the woman I trusted, had been hiding this entire time. She had been playing me for a fool, manipulating everything from the shadows. I replayed the footage, hoping to find a mistake. I needed something, anything, to tell me I was wrong. But nothing. It was all there, clear as day. There was no mistake. Lexi wasn't the one betraying me. She was just caught in the middle of a much larger, much darker web than I ever imagined. Sarah wasn't just some casual office acquaintance anymore. She was a full-on player in this game of deception. And Caleb? He had been a pawn, a distraction. A part of me wanted to confront him immediately, but I knew better. I needed more than just hearsay, more than just a gut feeling. I needed something concrete. I needed to expose Sarah for what she had done, not just to me but to everyone around her. The betrayal was deeper than I thought, and I had been chasing the wrong person all along. As I sat there, staring at the footage, the weight of the situation settled over me. I had crossed a line now. There was no turning back. I had to do something about it. But what? How? What was I supposed to do with this truth now? I thought about Lexi, my wife, the woman I loved. I couldn't even begin to fathom how she'd react to this. Would she even believe me if I told her? Would she see Sarah for what she truly was? Or had Sarah already spun her own web around her? All I knew was that I couldn't just sit on this. I had to act, and I had to do it fast. The realization set in. This wasn't just about uncovering a simple affair. This was about exposing a scheme that could bring everything crashing down. My marriage, my career, my life. The web of lies Sarah had built was far more dangerous than I ever could have imagined. I had to expose her, and I had to do it carefully. There was too much at stake now. Part 5, the final confrontation. The day after I uncovered the truth, the weight of it all was unbearable. I spent the night tossing and turning, each hour feeling like an eternity. The anger that boiled inside me was still fresh, raw, but it was mixed with something deeper, more painful. Hurt, betrayal. The kind of betrayal that cuts straight to your soul, the kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the person you loved. I never imagined it would come to this. I never thought that Lexi, the woman I married, the mother of my children, would be a part of something so monstrous. But here I was, standing on the precipice of a reality I couldn't avoid any longer. As the first light of day filtered through the blinds, I took a deep breath and decided it was time. I had to confront her. I had to hear it from her. The truth, the whole truth. No more lies. I could feel my hands trembling as I grabbed the USB drive from my desk. The footage was on it, the damning evidence of what I had discovered. Sarah, my boss's wife, not Caleb as I had suspected. No, the real betrayal had been Sarah's, using Lexi to hide her affair. When I walked into the living room, Lexi was sitting on the couch, her eyes tired from the night before. She had no idea what was coming. I didn't give her a chance to speak before I turned the TV on and plugged in the drive. The video started playing. Her face went pale as she saw the footage. It was almost as if the life drained from her. Her shoulders slumped, and she stared at the screen, unable to look away. The images were undeniable. Sarah and Caleb manipulating Lexi, using her as a pawn. I watched her face as the truth settled in, her eyes wide with disbelief and shock. Lexi, I said, my voice low and steady, though inside I was anything but. I need to hear it from you. What happened? She remained silent for a long moment. The room felt thick with tension, every second that passed stretching into eternity. Finally, her voice broke through, quiet and shaky. I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know. I was used, Alex. I didn't realize what I was a part of until now. I thought I was just helping Sarah with something small, something harmless, but... She paused, tears filling her eyes. I didn't know it would go this far. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. The anger inside me roared, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed the truth, not more lies. Tell me everything, Lexi. Tell me how Sarah used you. Lexi took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she wiped away the tears. It started with little things. Sarah would ask me to cover for her when she had meetings. She'd tell me she was working late, but I didn't think much of it. She was my friend, Alex. She was always there for me. She even helped me with the kids sometimes, gave me advice, felt like a real friendship. But she asked me to keep her affair hidden, and I didn't know it was all a lie. Her voice cracked as she spoke, her guilt consuming her. I thought I was just doing her a favor. I never imagined it would involve you or Caleb, or that I'd be caught up in something so dirty. I swallowed hard, the weight of her words hitting me like a ton of bricks. My mind was racing, and 100 different emotions crashed into me. Hurt, betrayal, confusion. But underneath it all, there was something else. I didn't know what to do with the anger that surged through me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice quiet, but full of pain. Why didn't you tell me about Sarah? Why didn't you tell me what was going on? I didn't know how to, she whispered, her voice shaking. I thought I could fix it. I didn't want to believe that I was being used. I didn't want to believe Sarah could be lying to me. I looked at her, the woman I thought I knew, but now she felt like a stranger. A part of me wanted to scream at her, to demand answers. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, just wanted to hold her and pretend that nothing had changed. But everything had changed. There was no going back. The silence in the room was deafening. We sat there for what felt like an eternity, neither of us knowing how to move forward. But I knew I couldn't let this go. I stood up and walked toward the door, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. I have to do something about this, I said, my voice low but determined. I can't just let Sarah get away with this. I'm going to take action. Lexi didn't say anything at first. Then, in a quiet voice, she spoke. Please, don't make it worse. Don't destroy everything. We can fix this, Alex. We can fix us. I stopped at the door, my hand on the handle. I wanted to believe her, but the truth was, I didn't know if we could fix it. Not after everything that had happened. "I'll be back," I said, my voice filled with finality. "I need to talk to Thomas." The moment I stepped into the office, I knew that this was going to be one of the hardest things I had ever done. Thomas was at his desk, his face buried in a pile of paperwork. I walked in without knocking, the door creaking loudly as I pushed it open. "Alex, what's going on?" Thomas looked up, clearly surprised to see me. His face was pale, and his usual calm demeanor had been replaced by something more tense, more guarded. I didn't waste any time. I reached into my bag and pulled out the USB drive, slamming it down on his desk. His eyes widened in confusion. "What's this?" "I need you to watch this," I said, my voice quiet but firm. He hesitated for a moment before plugging the drive into his computer. I could see the confusion on his face as he watched the footage. But as the video played, I saw the color drain from his face. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just sat there, frozen, watching in stunned silence as the truth about Sarah unfolded before him. When the video finished, Thomas looked at me, his face a mask of disbelief and anger. This can't be real," he said, his voice trembling. "Sarah, my wife?" I nodded, watching him struggle to process the betrayal. "I didn't know," he whispered, his hands shaking. "I had no idea. How long has this been going on?" I could see the anger building in him, the same rage I had felt earlier. But there was also pain. The kind of pain that comes from realizing your entire world has been turned upside down. He ran a hand through his hair, taking in the magnitude of what I had shown him. "Sarah," he said, his voice bitter. "She's been hiding this from me, from all of us. And now you're telling me this is how she's been using Lexi." "Yes," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "This is what's been happening, and I need you to do something about it." Thomas didn't hesitate. "I'll take care of it. I'll make sure Sarah and Caleb are both removed from the company immediately. They've violated every ethical guideline we have." The next day, I walked into work with a heavy heart. I hadn't heard anything from Thomas after our conversation, but I had an odd sense of closure. I didn't want to make a scene, but I knew that what had happened needed to be dealt with. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about holding people accountable for their actions. People who thought they could use others for their own gain and get away with it. As the morning unfolded, word started to spread. Caleb and Sarah were both escorted out of the office by Thomas himself. The hum of office gossip was unbearable, but I couldn't bring myself to care. Justice had been served, in the way I knew how, quietly, with no need for public spectacle. Later that afternoon, I received a message from Lexi. She asked if we could talk, and though I wasn't sure what would come of it, I knew that the road ahead would be long. But for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe again. The truth had come to light, and with it, a sense of closure, however painful. Conclusion: this story, while filled with twists and turns, ultimately highlights the importance of trust, communication, and the power of truth. Even when the truth is painful, it's what keeps relationships intact. And for me, it was worth every moment of heartache and investigation. In the end, I didn't just find out the truth about my wife. I found out who I really am and what I'm willing to do to protect those I love. So, what do you think? Has your perspective on loyalty and betrayal shifted a little after hearing this story? Feel free to share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on this whirlwind of emotions and the consequences of deception. And if you found this journey insightful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to stay tuned for more gripping stories coming your way. Thank you for listening to the full story, and I can't wait to share the next chapter with you soon.